Hi, I'm Dave Irick, and I'd like you to join me out here on the rocks.
Woo! Working all week for a paycheck. By Friday, I'm ready to scream. I hate all this hustle and bustle, man. You know I really hate this scene. So I get off on the rocks. Yeah, yeah. Off on the rocks. Oh, baby, I get off on the rocks. Woo! Off on the rocks.
You're about to meet a group we like to call the Dirty 30. Because, well, there's 30, and in this sport, they love getting dirty. Today, Rick Russell's gonna take us to the outer limits with special guest off-road legend Walker Evans and friends. We'll even show you how to transform your next cookout into a banquet fit for a king. All this while we crawl up one of the most rugged, breathtaking trails in the West. Now, rough riding on these back roads wouldn't be complete without a trail boss, and ours is none other than Rick Russell, a four-wheeling legend for over 30 years.
Woo!
Welcome to the outer limits, where Johnson Valley is in control of your horizontal and your vertical.
Woo!
Today on this trail ride here in Johnson Valley, I'm just going to ride along, and Doug McBurney is our trail boss today. Here's Doug McBurney, good friend of mine, rescues me when I need help.
Yeah, right.
This outer limits should be fun.
Oh yeah, Outer Limits is my favorite of the old trails here.
What makes outer limits unique?
It's a continuous rock crawl. You got small waterfalls and you got big rocks. It's fairly continuous. It keeps you challenged most of the way.
So what's the secret for actually getting through here?
Pick your lines and stay on them. Staying on them is the problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Us old guys can pick lines. It's making the Jeep stay on it that's a problem. And they've dug it out pretty much with big tires and four-wheel steer. So it's this Jeep here used to do it all the time, but it's a little different today with the big holes.
Well, like you said, those big tires and then rear steer, and this is actually a trail that's good for buggies, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, a lot of buggies run this trail.
Yeah. So this
in fact, of the trails, I think it's the most fun of the old trails. The new trails, I guess, are getting to be really tough. So.
You like this trail?
No, like Doug said, I think it's probably my favorite trail too. Yeah, we frequent this place a lot. I've been out here 5 times this year. So it's my favorite trail because it's the longest trail out here. Far and away the longest trail. So, and it's got good waterfalls. It's got some really good technical spots on it. And you know you've been wheeling at the end of the day.
It's a complete trail.
It is. Yeah, so. You know, you go from one spot and you go over 2 hills and then you end up in another canyon, which is, there's most of the trails you almost come back in the same spot you started.
Yeah.
This is
nice.
My third reincarnation. It's my third buggy I built.
It's nice.
Yeah, we're happy with it.
And I noticed that you have one of the historic link arc welders on there.
Well, yeah, I do. Absolutely.
I mean, if that box is red, you have to be around a while.
I know it, unfortunately. Plus, you know, the gray beard tells you how old you are too. So, yeah, and I think that's growing one also nowadays.
So Walker, you've been on this trail before? A few times?
Outer Limits?
Outer Limits.
Yes, I have. It's a great trail, it really is. It's a long ways out from our camp, but once you get there, the crawling is great, the scenery is good. It's a nice canyon, and it's got a lot of tough stuff, but yet it's got some mild stuff.
I see that you've got your top on here, and you have Phyllis with you, which is what your goal was several years ago.
That's right.
Saw you at the shop, you said, you know, you're going to have to get one of these Jeeps and do this trail ride stuff.
And I'm really enjoying this Jeeping, this style of Jeeping. You know, for years I did rock crawling and was hooked up with Goodyear doing that, and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, but I'll tell you, the camaraderie just among all these guys that are go out here in the desert Jeeping, you can stop when you want, you can do this what you want, you can go over here and explore this area, and to have a perfect vehicle that's, you might say, a little bit airtight. We've got a heater, and you know, if it should rain, at least we're not going to get too wet, but no, it's just a lot of fun with a motorhome and traveling all over. I mean, we go to Moab, I mean, Las Cruces and Farmington, just traveling all around with a good bunch of people. It's a lot of fun.
So how does a 1/4 mile an hour on the rocks compare to 100 miles an hour in the desert?
Well, it's quite a bit different, believe me. You get a lot more time to look at the scenery, so to speak. Baja racing was great. I really enjoyed it. It was fun running wide open through the desert and seeing who could get to point A to point B the quickest. But yeah, and I just competed a little bit in the Baja 1000 this year, so it was fun after 7 years to go back and do that. But I really enjoy jeeping. It's a different pace. It's an older man's sport, so to speak.
Is that the reason I like it so much?
Yeah, that's right. That's the reason we like it. Right.
But age, you can do this a lot longer probably than you can go 100 miles an hour through the desert.
Right.
True. Yeah.
How do you like it, Phyllis?
Oh, I like it. I'm more of a fair weather though, and if the course gets too rough, I get out and walk. So does my little doggy. We walk together.
When the Jeep starts way up on some of that stuff, I hear the door open, and that means she's getting out.
Coming up next.
Well, you're hanging with a pretty tough group.
I know. They are a tough group. That's true.
Right here on the rocks. Welcome back to On the Rocks TV in Johnson Valley, California.
Obviously, some lines that you might choose to wind your vehicle through these rocks are easier than others. All of these guys would just as soon take the hardest route they can find through these rocks.
Love coming out here. Coming out here probably about 10 years now. I started with a CJ5, very mild, and then I built a rig to actually come out here and enjoy all the trails. Year before last, it was the first trip out here with the Victor Valley four-wheeler, so I had a guy, photographer, come out, and I got 4 pages in 4x4 builder. It was a nice spread. This was the very first trail I took my Jeep on, and it did great. It was awesome. There's some tight sections where you're pretty tippy, you're sideways and tight within rocks, and it's just a challenge the whole way through. It's a blast.
So what's the secret of getting through here?
I like to say horsepower and big tires.
That's not true.
But yeah, just being in control of your line and trying to stay with a good line. That's the key to almost all these trails. Picking a good line and staying on top of it.
It's a good trail, but it will be probable body damage. I mean, I've gotten body damage up here every year, so.
Well, you're hanging with a pretty tough group.
I know. They are a tough group. That's true.
Well, I look forward to running the trail with you guys today, although I'll be walking it. But Harold will be my chauffeur today.
Okay.
It's Harold Off, but I do have to spell that last name a lot, O-F-F.
Yeah.
Not many people can spell it.
I like the way you used it in your company's name, Off Again.
Off Again.
That was great. How would you describe this trail?
A little gnarly, a little tight, but all of them are that way out here.
Yeah.
Any trail's a good trail out here.
What advice you'd give to somebody that was going to run this trail for the first time?
Pay attention to the guy in front of you that's ran it before. A lot of attention. Just watch the guys that have done it. Listen to them.
It's pretty strange to see Kevin Hawkins out here in Johnson Valley. I'm used to seeing him in Moab. He's a Utah resident and goes down to Moab all the time. That Jeep that he's driving, that flat fender, has gone through a lot of changes over the last years. It seems to get longer and maybe a little bit narrower, but Kevin's Jeep is definitely set up for Moab, but he does quite well out here in these rocks in Johnson Valley. So you drove pretty far. How many miles is that?
Oh, I try not to look at the mileage. I try and get down and get some sleep. I went down to Superstition and spent a day down there. It's about a 12-hour drive. As long as I can get at least 4 or 5 hours for the next day, then I'm okay. Years ago, we used to drive all night long and then meet people at the Denny's here in Yucca, and then go out and Jeep all day, and boy, that next night was like, it was tough, but as you get older, it's like, I need at least 5 hours.
You like this trail, Outer Limits?
I do. It's got more of a length to it. A lot of these other ones were just big canyons. This one seems a little more level. It's got some pretty good lengths, waterfalls, some little squeeze tight spots, and like all the hammers, there's always these little side obstacles that if you're feeling frisky, you can go play on. But
well, you know, that is one thing about Johnson Valley. I believe there's 160,000 acres here, and it's designated as open, so we can go anywhere we want. I think most people try to stay on one of the existing roads, but when you get in these canyons and stuff, if you've got a good vehicle and you want to stretch it out, go for it. I've known Walker Evans a long time. In fact, I met Walker Evans just waving at him when he drove by at 100 miles an hour out on the desert in Mexico. He actually won and has set a record that hasn't been beaten yet to win the Baja 500 race more times in a row than anyone else. Walker is definitely a competitive kind of a guy, and was enjoying the competitiveness of the Rock Crawl Championships. I think Phyllis was kind of talking to him about taking her with him more places. So he built this Jeep. It's a Bob Scrambler type body. That's what it started with, aluminum tub. And he built that to start doing some of these rock crawl trail rides and get out of the competition and do some trail rides. In fact, he said to me, he says, you know, I want to build this Jeep to go with you on some of your events and stuff. It's amazing, though, he started running with some of these guys that changed their vehicles to get more radical, and now his Jeep that was once going to get out on the highway and drive up to the Rubicon Trail and run the Rubicon might be just a little bit rough to do something like that. Derek Trent is driving a Toyota that's really been chopped up and cut into a buggy. This trail that we're running is probably better suited in some kind of a buggy than it is a full-bodied Jeep.
So they're a little bit more durable. The skins on them are all Lexan, and if you tear those up, you can just go back to the trailer and pull out another pair of skins and put them on. It looks like brand new again.
It is rough, but it's also long, and that's what makes it a little more challenging for folks. Come out here and run this trail. If you go a half mile, you're ready for a break and this kind of stuff, especially if you have a breakdown, flat tire. You just can't keep pounding yourself against the rocks without taking a break or without breaking something on the vehicle.
Coming up next.
Ta-da! We're keeping that. That's a trophy right there.
That's right. That's a trail trophy.
Right here on the rocks. Welcome back to On the Rocks, where we're going to find out what's broke now and how they're going to fix it.
Yeah, the PSC steering ram broke a bolt in the end of the ram. It's the second one we broke this weekend, so they're going to weld that back on and turn around and go back to camp.
Why don't you tell us about your welder?
It's a ready welder. It runs off two 12-volt batteries in series for 24 volts. And it's a wire feed flux core 35 thousandths wire, and it works great.
What they actually do is weld a wrench to the end of that bolt that's left in there, and then they'll have to bend the wrench so they can make a full circle to turn out that piece of bolt that's stuck in the threads there. And there it is.
We're keeping that. That's a trophy right there.
We're early on the trail here. A nice view where you can see all the vehicles kind of lining up. The wash, if you were up in the Sierra Mountains, you'd call it a sluice. Water runs down through and washes the sand out. It's full of a lot of rocks, ledges to climb over, and there's several places that are tight squeezes where you can bang the side of your vehicle into a rock. Now Russ is driving a CJ5. That shorter wheelbase sometimes helps you and sometimes hurts you. I think generally on a trail, it's harder to get a shorter wheelbase over some of this stuff. What does that say, Grandpa, I think? Yeah, Russ has probably been a grandpa several times over. I think Russ needs just a little bit of help over this obstacle here to keep from damaging his vehicle. And not a big deal. I mean, you know, we got plenty of us around. We're not doing anything except standing around watching him, so we might as well help him out here. I think we're going to need a winch to get him over or pull him with a Jeep, because this muscle power is not going to do the trick.
Why don't I just winch it? That's to say there's not.
When you need a winch, that's the only thing that's going to work. But that's not bad. Russ has really made it quite a ways through this trail without any real major problems. And so he's done quite well on a trail like this with a CJ5 and 35-inch tires. Here's Doug making a climb up this waterfall here. You know, this is a finesse kind of a trail. You know, horsepower and speed is not going to get you over these obstacles. What you need is finesse and carefully place all your wheels and tires in the right place. And there he goes. Doug went right over it. That was a great job. It's hard enough to walk up, much less a drive up. Well, now Walker's turn, and Walker, you know, these guys are pretty competitive, so if somebody makes it up an obstacle like this, you can be sure that several other people will not give up easily. Yeah, Walker went right over. That's a great job, Walker. Pretty amazing what these vehicles will climb these days. Here's another angle of that same obstacle. Yeah, so now it's Jim's turn to get over. Hey Harold, that's quite a balancing act you got going on there. Now, just one wrong move here and you'll be on your side. Now I decided to take the cradle this time. I'm sitting there in the passenger seat on Harold's vehicle, but it's kind of fun just to ride along sometime. Let somebody else beat their vehicle up and let me just ride. But
that was the way to do it.
Looks like you were riding the downside, Rick.
I was on the downside.
This is probably the toughest section on the Outer Limits Trail right here. You can see you've got to squeeze between those rocks, and you can see several colors of paint on those rocks when you go back and take a look.
Well, you just barely cleared that.
We just don't want to leave any of our colors there.
Not very elegant, but I'm up, you know? Come on, Russ.
As if Rick and the crew didn't have enough fun already, they decided to tackle another extreme trail.
We're going to make every bit of use out of the time that it took us to get out here to Johnson Valley, and we're over here running the back door. You get over here and it's likely that we could break something and be here after dark. Now this whole section here is called the back door. There's actually two sets of stairs, ledges that to get over. I don't know if I'd say one's harder than the other. Doug's making them both look easy here today. There's always a way to get a vehicle up one of these ledges, whether you're long or short. Depends on how gutsy you are to get those short wheelbases over. Obviously the longer wheelbases, they're not quite as frightening as a short wheelbase. Hey Kevin, how much horsepower do you have in that?
400. It's a 6-liter General Motors. Maybe if I had 10 more inches instead of horsepower.
Yeah. I'm gonna go up, bump it up, and then I'll turn. When I get up on the first ledge, then I'll try to turn right. Hopefully I can make it. I think I will try. Have fun. Thank you.
You know what? I'll be glad to get back to the camp after this day. And I didn't even drive my Jeep.
Coming up next,
On the Rocks, Spicy Cheesy Sloppy Joes.
Right here on The Rocks. Cookie, what in tarnation are you making here today?
Dave, I'm making On the Rocks Spicy Cheesy Sloppy Joes.
I knew a girl like that once in college. So how do you make this dish?
Well, we start with ground beef,
Yeah.
We add Italian spicy sausage.
Hence the spicy.
We saute some onions.
Saute.
We grill up some minced garlic.
Ooh.
So good. We add our Worcestershire sauce.
Yeah, okay.
Your favorite barbecue sauce.
Sounds good.
Mix it all together.
Don't forget cheesy.
Absolutely. Top it off with, well, we mix it and then we add the cheese.
Yeah, I know, I just reminded you. So that makes our
Spicy, cheesy, sloppy joes. We grill up some buns over here, toasted with some butter.
Right.
And Dave, this is just unbelievable. It's so good.
I don't believe you.
It's time you started believing because
Make me a believer, brother.
it's so
Here
good.
we go. My first bite of spicy, sleazy, sloppy. My first bite of spicy, cheesy, sloppy Joe.
What do you think? Come on, bring it.
All right, that's good.
Let
that's
the cookie
good.
know.
No, that's
See?
good. Mm-hmm. You want half?
Absolutely.
Here you go.
Oh, come on, that's the little half.
Well, you should have made it a little less better.
On the rocks, spicy, cheesy, sloppy joes.
Well, that concludes running through the Outer Limits Trail and the Backdoor Trail and Resolution Obstacle at the top of Backdoor. Well, now from the top of this ridge, we'll find our way back to Means Dry Lake Bed and our campsite. Johnson Valley is actually 180,000 acres, and it's managed as open by the BLM, which means you can go anywhere you want. If there's not a road going there, you can make one. But I gotta warn you that there's some pretty sharp rocks up there, and most people stick to the existing roads and trails until a club gets together and starts stacking rocks to build a trail through another canyon. Although it is in somewhat of a danger, the Marine base next to it wants to expand its area and take over some of these trails that we're on today. The Outer Limits Trail and Sledgehammer and Jackhammer, they want to move the boundary of the Marine base over into those Hartwell Hills. And so I don't know how much of these trails we're going to be able to hang on to as the years go on.